Hello everybody, it's Board and I hope you all be okay. This video is about one of my journals about going to a city in the center of Persia called Yazd. This city Yazd is the second historical city in the whole wide world, and I really saw that it's a very interesting topic to talk about, and I really recommend you to visit this beautiful city. In the first, I went to a mosque called the Mosque of Friday, and the reason of calling that is because in Muslim cultures, they have a kind of a special praying that they do every Friday at the noon, and this mosque was specialized for that kind of prayings for many years, but it's not used for that kind of praying anymore, but people still use it, I mean the Muslim people, to pray. And this is really beautiful. It's very old, and the paintings on the walls and everything inside this mosque just excites you till death. And I have to tell you that this mosque is at the beginning of a part in the city that in Persian they call it the historical fiber, but in English, I think it's better to call it the historical system or the historical context of the city. And why they call it like that? Because there are many houses and many old and ancient valleys and streets in these parts that just feel like the books. I mean, just walking in those old and ancient valleys, just touching the walls and smelling them, just gives you the feeling that you're walking or living in a book. And that's amazing. And I have to confess that just walking in these valleys was the most interesting and exciting thing I have ever done in my life, because when you just step in those valleys, you never want to go out. And there are many beautiful places and beautiful and famous houses in this place that you can watch, I mean the inside of them, or go on the rooftop and watch all this historical context under your feet. And I have nothing to say anymore, just expressing my feelings with the words that are powerless. So after that, I went to a place called the Alexander's Prison. I really didn't understand why they call it the Alexander's Prison, because it was a school from the beginning and it was called the School Ziyaye, that is the name, and it was built 1000 years ago, and I saw it really cool to mention. After that, I went to another place that I really fell in love with. It was called Amir Chakmakh, and it was actually a series of buildings like a motel, a public bath, a square, and some little houses around that area. And it was built by a general about 900 years ago in Persia, and I have to say that the wife of that general was buried in one of the corners of this motel. And something cool is that there is a big pool in front of that motel that in the nights you can see the reflection, the really beautiful reflection of that motel in the water, that I promise is one of the most beautiful things you have ever seen in your life. After that, I went to another place that was called the Marco Watch, and there is a cool story behind this watch, that in the first, about 100 years ago, they decided to build a watch and they named it the Ferdowsi watch. That is the name of one of the most famous poets in Persia, and they built it in another place in this city. But after some time, they considered that this place wasn't so good for this watch, so they changed it and they named it the Marco watch. That was after the name of the person who built this watch, and also a school and also some other houses for the charity. And he was an Indian Zoroastrian who lived in Yazd. And there are some rumors that people say there are golds hidden under this building, so if someday this building got destroyed, they would have the money from that gold to rebuild it once again. And another cool fact is that this watch is exactly placed in the geographical center of Persia, and it's cool to consider that they have built this watch 100 years ago. Now, after all this, I went to another place called the Zoroastrians' Fire Temple. This temple has more than 1500 years old, and it's, well, a place for the Zoroastrians to pray, but these days they don't use it so much for their ceremonies and the festivals. They instead use some other places that have the same name and the same usage, just they are not old enough. So this place got famous instead of the others. Now let's go to another place that is called Dolat Abad Garden. It was built about 300 years ago, but the coolest part about this garden is the building that is exactly in the middle of it. Why? Because with 34 meters, it has the longest tagular wind catcher in wide world. And well, I don't know if you know or not, but Yazd is also called the city of the wind catchers. And well, this was the end of my journal. I hope you'd like it. Well, I don't know if I should put more videos about these things and my journeys. Just tell me if you liked it, and we'll see you in a couple of days. And remember, the boar is always watching you.